Sorry, couldn't get the microphone working, but we'll talk loud and we'll get everything else going here. A shame because I just charged this. Does everybody have an agenda for tonight?
Yes. No.
Okay, so I'm going to give out a few here. Just pass them along if we need them. And we're going to pass around the sign-up sheet. So Kim, I'm going to deputize you with this if that's okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Hello everybody who's watching online and the people who are here. We've got a nice turnout. I want to thank everybody for showing up to the September meeting of Rising. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is John Doyle. I'm the president of the board of City on Rising. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I want to particularly thank our board members who are here, which is Kim Woodruff, Billy Perez, Jeff Cunningham, Louisa Benedetto, Dan Treiber's on our steering committee, and I think we're going to be joined by Beverly and a few others as time goes on. So thank you all for coming out to build community with us. I know it's a little hot in here, and I know you could have been doing better things, you know, watching football or whatever at home since the season has started. And you know, we'll see what happens for the Jets fans. I know it was it was touch and go there. They won the game, but of the injury. I want to thank everybody for coming out. There's a lot going on, so we're going to just try to take it from the top here. Some of us were speaking before the meeting, so it's going to be a little repetitious, but we'll try to get through it quickly. First thing is, we have gotten all the Home Depot supplies from Adopt the Basin, so $4,000 worth of supplies is sitting up in my apartment right now. I know about 10 people have signed up already, so we're about a quarter of the way through on requests. If you want to sign up, you go right onto here. It's a 2-pager that has a QR code on the back. Just come up and take one. We're going to post them up around the community. Again, all we're asking for is if you live near a catch basin and you have an hour a month, nothing crazy, that you can commit your time to. We really want to just make sure the catch basins are clean, and we will provide you the tools to do all that. And you know, hopefully we can get 2 people on a block so it doesn't fall squarely on one person. But you're going to get a broom, a dustbin, a trash picker, a hedge clipper, a bunch of garbage bags, so you get like the full gamut of things. And we do have access. We have about 5 or 6 weed whackers, which we can give out, but we can't give those out permanently, so we'll lend them to you if you need them, and then we will come pick them up. But we have a lot of good materials, all brand new, so we want to thank the Home Depot Foundation for giving us the grant money, and let's put it to good use here. Also on the good news front, as people have seen, I know we've been posting about it, there are 4 flood sensors on City Island that operate right now. We've been posting the link. We'll post it again tonight. It's the NYC FloodNet program. If you go to their digital map, it takes you to the whole city. Same places you would anticipate are shown: Jamaica Bay, Rockaways, Broad Channel, Breezy Point, Garrettson Beach, and City Island. And then there's a little area by Starlight Park down by Soundview. So it's them and us are the 2 areas of the Bronx that have the sensors working. But the sensors are up there. You can see them. One is actually by the Chase ATM. So you're out there, you'll see a little sign on the railing there, and it will tell you, or the street sign rather, that this is a part of the New York City program. And they're all actually connected on City Island. So it's a really great event, and we're actually going to be expanding this. We're talking now with CUNY and the Parks Department. So all those areas like the former Lake Orchard and the other pooling areas of Pelham Bay Park are now going to have flood sensors, hopefully in the next few months. And then the plan is to build that out to our sister coastal communities in Country Club and in Edgewater and in Locust Point and in Silver Beach. So they also have these same flood sensors. So that helps us with data make the case that these are communities very vulnerable to climate change. Also on the climate change front, we have the Stop and Swap that's going to take place on Saturday. Millie, who's one of our organizers of Stop and Swap, thank you, Millie, and Alice Schrachter, who unfortunately had a previous engagement, couldn't be here tonight. Could you just tell us a little bit about the Stop and Swap, if you wouldn't mind?
Well, this is our first Stop and Swap, so this is like a trial project, I'll call it. So Saturday rather, we're meeting at Hawkins Park at 11:30 or 12, those that are going to bring donations. And then they're available probably before 2. I don't think it's going to take that long, but we're saying 2 to 4. So anyone can just bring a donation if they'd like, or just come and take what's there. No money is exchanged. And one of the things that I noticed online when you sent me the information was that this can grow. The people that were doing it looked like a flea market.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And I said, "Oh, how scary is that? You know, to have that much." So we'll see how many donations we actually have. People have been, calling and asking about it. So we'll see what happens.
I see books. You can drop off books.
Yes.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah, you can drop off books, and then those books that aren't taken, we'll just give to the Bronx Van Books person, because she recycles. The owner of that company, she recycles the books. So we have a place for the books. The books will not be burned after this meeting. We're not one of those places. René?
Is this going to happen regularly after this first one?
We'll see.
The idea, hopefully, Millie is right. I'm aspirational. Hopefully this will be a success and we will build on it. I will say, true to usual City Island success stories, this had been like, we've been putting stuff out, we've been getting a little bit back, and then today, really just emails started coming in and people were sharing it in other communities. So it seems to be taking off in like the last 24 hours, which is usually a good sign. We have a bunch of tables. If people want to show up and help, they're more than welcome to. We have the permit for the whole Hawkins Park. Basically what we're going to do is set up on one side of the park, men's clothing, women's clothing, kids' clothing, and then we'll have toys, electronics, books, and things like that. There'll be separate sections. So you'll show up, you'll put your stuff in the different sections, and then we'll, from 2 to 4, we'll be there to kind of help facilitate things. But the goal of this is that it's less stuff in the landfills, and it's a way for you to get rid of some of this stuff. And then, as we've done in the past, when stuff is left over that's in good quality, we will find either one of the shelters or one of the nonprofits helping migrants adjust to their new surroundings. We will find a way to get the stuff to them. Any other questions about Stop and Swap? And again, just for the people coming, we do have flyers for it. So if you haven't got it yet, please get that flyer. I think it's going to be a great event. Something else we're working on is the New York CERT program. This is the New York, Community Emergency Response Teams. There is a community response team for the greater 45th Precinct CB10 area, but the Office of Emergency Management has recognized that City Island has unique vulnerabilities as a Zone 1 evacuation area. So they've told us if we can get 30 City Islanders who are all committed to the same time, we can they will facilitate us having our own CERT team. So right now, I think we're in between 15 and 20 people signed up. So we're getting there. We're making positive headway. We're going to be sharing this. We're probably going to do some paid social media on this. Absolutely, I'll get to you in 1 second. And the goal is obviously to get 30 people at the same time. Right now we have 15 to 20, and they're kind of, there's a consensus on sometimes, but they're all kind of all over the place. So we're trying to work on that. We're also, until we get that time, we're going to start arranging monthly projects. We're still involved with some DOH trainings that they want to do with us. We have a conference call, Beverly and I have a conference call with them later this week. And we may do some certified CPR stuff because we have the funding to do it, so might as well get a bunch of people trained in that. That's just, common sense all around. Anyone? Sorry, you had a question. I apologize.
Just a quick question. What are the primary responsibilities of CERT teams for those individuals?
Absolutely. So CERT teams, you go through about a 10-week training. They teach you how to identify vulnerable points in your community. You liaison with the Office of Emergency Management through a team-like atmosphere. There's usually a team leader. That can be sometimes going into emergency areas and categorizing what you see and what's going wrong and relaying that up the city chain. Also, they teach you how to direct city traffic, believe it or not. So you can do that as well. There's a lot you can do with this. They teach you basically how the warning signs of like possible utility danger. So like gas lines, if a gas line is broken, what to look for, things along that nature. Again, you will never be primarily, unless in a real emergency, like ripping people out of their homes. Your role is to assist the city and communicate back to the city what's going on in your respective area.
Do you have an idea of what the time commitment would be?
So the way they described it was usually it's like a 2-hour class, about a 2 to 3 hour class over 10 times over 10 weeks, with the last class being like a ceremonial presentation thing. I think what we're going to try to do is see if we can get on one weekend day and see how many of them we can knock. We try to do a much shorter, longer on the day, but shorter amount of classes. Because if we have everybody concentrated, that just, again, makes good sense. And in the interim, while we're getting people together to build on this, we'll do the CPR trainings. I have someone for that. We'll do Stop the Bleed, where they teach you how to make tourniquets. Because, we do live unfortunately, in an active shooting environment. Just being real about it. And we'll do stuff with the coads in terms of different emergency responses they can teach us as well. So until we have the stuff we need for CERT for OEM, this will kind of be a week-by-week or month-by-month training until we get up there. Anyone else have any questions on the CERT? Really, and we do have a bunch of these. You've probably seen these up there. They're up in a lot of the convenience stores. They're up on Dan's bulletin board. Really pushing this. We'd love to have more people involved in this. The ferry effort. You have anything would you like to speak about the ferry? You're kind of passionate and infectious, and I apologize for putting you on the spot with this, but if I drone
What am
on...
I saying? I want a ferry!
Yes.
I feel like I've said what I'm going to say about the ferry like 15,000 times, but yes, I really want a ferry. As an organization, we are very pro-ferry. I put it all in the... What did I say? I feel like everybody's heard me say all this stuff before. As I was walking down the street, my husband and I were taking a walk today, and we were thinking to ourselves, we really need a ferry for this community. Why do we need a ferry for this community? Because there's so many shops that are closed. We don't have enough foot traffic here to support these businesses. And we're kind of entrepreneurial-minded people, and we're like, oh, it would be cool to have, it would be nice to have a bakery. It would be nice to have some little shops with cute things, like a nice little walkable area, but we can't have that because our businesses can't survive with the way the environment is here. So we need other ways for people to come here. So that's one of the reasons I want a ferry. But the other reason I want a ferry is I want to go to other places. I don't want to be stuck on City Island on a Saturday afternoon in the summer every Saturday. It would be nice. How awesome would it be to just cruise on down, not even get in my car, walk over to the ferry terminal, cruise on down to the city and walk around, or maybe even go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn is like another planet. You go to Brooklyn?
I do, but that's just because I have a lot of weird friends.
Oh yeah, you're like one of those
Yeah.
people. But it's far away. I mean, it's so far away. But if we had a ferry, we could open up the world. So that's my ferry spiel for the day.
Burst of positivity. Thank you. And also, she did it on the spot. She was not given any preparation. And we wrote an op-ed, Kim, David, Diaz, and myself. It's on Welcome to the Bronx. It's getting a lot of good hits. People are signing the petition, so we're grateful for that. And we're going to be rolling out a website. We've already bought the domain names, so we're just actually going through some of the initial designs, which is going to be a much more, and Kim, beyond being a burst of positivity, was also very regimented, because when we were doing first drafts of the letter to the editor, it was like War and Peace.
1,500 words.
Yes, it was a novel. It was a novel. So the website is going to break down a lot of the good arguments for a ferry, and connecting it to a lot of the things we're concerned with. How to reduce traffic to City Island. How to, kind of as Kim said, boost our storefronts. How to provide better opportunities for our young people. how to help us in an emergency access situation. Just 1 second. We had that situation where there was a fire by the bridge. If that had gotten really bad, we would have all been closed off here.
Yeah.
And this is another reason we have to think about, God forbid there's an emergency here. Yes, in a storm, they're not going to send the New York City ferry boat out here. I get that. But in other situations, if there's something bad that happens at the bridge, we're in a pickle, and this can serve for that. Beyond that, they did a report for the EDC. The report said Orchard Beach wasn't very feasible. It's linked on the op-ed. I encourage you to go to page 70. It's 4 pages. People think I'm trying to get them to read a 150-page report. I'm not. The City Island section is only 4 pages. It says that Orchard Beach, there would be no commute time savings because by the time you take the drive over there, park your car, walk out to the longest pier humanly imaginable so they wouldn't have to dredge Orchard Beach, that it would not be any savings there. They did say in the report that City Island has a low ridership, but what we contend is that, yes, City Island has a low weekday ridership of people maybe going to Manhattan, but you also have to take into account on the weekends. How many people would come here who normally come here via their cars if they were given the opportunity to come here for the NYC Ferry? And in essence, yes, the weekday might be a net loss on revenue, but the weekends could be a net generator. And there are places to put it. Again, these are the preliminary points of a conversation. The report identified 2 places. They could either rebuild Belden Point Pier, which I would love just because I don't like the way that pier looks now, because there isn't one, or use Fordham Street. I'm kind of, I would prefer, I'm not a ferry station expert. I would prefer the Belden Point one because, again, it takes you right to the end point of the island. It will let you off. There are 2 restaurants there. You could walk up the island if you so choose. The report also made a point that traffic-wise, people are not going to drive from other communities when there are easier, more accessible ferry points in other neighborhoods. And if they're from Westchester, they could just get on the Metro.
But there's no parking there.
There isn't, but that's the point I'm trying to, the report makes that case that parking would not be as serious a consideration. People are not going to come all the way out of their way to City Island for 20 minutes if there's no parking. Basically, is let him go first, and I'll come right back to you. John.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that prior discussions
Yes.
a number of years ago with the New York City Board of Tourism, they have put an active part in all of the ferry projects and using their advertising dollars, and to promote the use of ferries. And I'm sure they would do that too in City Island, which I think would achieve a lot of the goal to really increase tourism, weekend tourism, to boost businesses. And to that end, it's much more logical to do it from a community standpoint and Belden's Point, because most of, or a good part of Fordham Street is a residential area. There are people constantly walking through, like a subway station. So, Belden's Point, since it abuts to commercial, to blocks, it would make much more sense from a, community interface standpoint.
Let me let this gentleman go. We'll come right back to you. Go ahead.
Kind of piggybacking on this gentleman's point and your point, I can see I see your point in terms of generation of wealth during summer, spring, fall, but what about during the winter months when everything slows?
Yeah.
That could possibly be a big hit.
Could be. Very good point. I mean, it also might bring people to some establishments as well, in the sense of that maybe people who are already on the ferry route who are going other places would take it to the end, right? I can't say for sure. I would point out to you that the ferry normally does decrease in its ridership during the winter months, if you look at the projections. It's usually during the nicer months that they make a lion's share of their revenue. But I would also point out to you that every year, the revenues of the NYC Ferry have been going up, which is the point we made.
I think the revenue of the 2 restaurants, Johnny's and would go up a lot if
I
there was
agree.
a ferry, and they might share their parking spaces.
Great
I mean,
idea.
you could negotiate some
Yeah.
kind of deal. Those restaurants would benefit
Yeah.
hugely.
And there is talk in other neighborhoods, to piggyback off what you're saying, because there is some, there is talk in some other neighborhoods about possibly having on the off streets residential parking. This has been a state and city thing. We're not there yet, but these are all things that are part of a broader discussion as we get closer down the line. Where it's going to be, what offsets there can be for the community. Those are all legitimate points, and no one is saying they're not, but we can't just act as if parking Armageddon is a guarantee to happen when the EDC report is saying it's not. So we have to wait, we have to continue to advocate, we're going to continue to push this, we're going to have, trust me, a lot of different activities for people as the months come out. We're going to be doing some fun stuff with social media. If you know people who are pro-ferry who maybe have moved away, please email us at cityislandrising@nyc.com. We have a fun activity we want to bring them on board with. But there's going to be a very, very broad, both online and in-person effort to build this up. Yes, miss?
Would this be part of the New York State ferry system, or it would go like to Ferry Point and then down?
Ideally, yes. And look, I mean, some people are saying Orchard Beach. Think of that during the summer months. How much traffic comes just from Orchard Beach to City Island, and they sit, unfortunately, people who want to spend money here and enjoy themselves, they're spending time in their cars when they could maybe take the ferry over. It's a much nicer commute. Get them on their feet and get them out in maybe more of our regular shops here. Thank you. So yeah, we'll see what kind of life it takes on. Ironically, we have gotten some contacts from people who are pursuing ferries in other areas that are not a part of NYC Ferry. We're having to talk to them, but it seems like it's not, that's, like there was one person who reached out from Glen Cove, and we had a very nice conversation, but people here are not looking to go to Glen Cove, and I don't think people from Glen Cove are looking to come here. So, teach their own. Maybe. Maybe.
At least a couple stops every day, Here in Glen Cove, some people probably.
Okay. This transition is going to be rough, so I don't want to give anybody whiplash. From a positive, as everyone knows, this neighborhood grapples with substance abuse and addiction. We talk about it here quite frequently. We've done Narcan trainings. We do have test strips if people need it. When if they're using, we can give them the test strips. We'll drop it off at any house for any reasons, no questions asked. Just send your address. We don't need to know who it's going to. We're not looking to monitor anybody's. We want to protect people's privacy. The point is just that people should have the test strips. They should be familiar with how Narcan is used. We do regular Narcan trainings, and building on that. Shortly before COVID started, we had a group that was looking to do more outreach in the community, made up of trained substance abuse professionals or people who had been directly affected by it, people who had formerly been addicted, things like that. And we're restarting our panel discussion that we're going to do for people in the community. And we're going to be bringing in health experts. It's going to be sometime this fall, but the work on that continues. I just wanted to keep this on here. We have our welcoming committee, which if people want to be involved in that, it's if someone new moves to the island, we want to give them some information, welcome them, make sure they know about this group, make sure they know about all sorts of wonderful stuff going on City Island, where there are nice restaurants, what amenities we have. We bring a nice folder. We send some very nice people out there who are very kind, who greet them. It's a really wonderful experience. So we want to continue that. If people want to be involved in that, cityislandrising@gmail.com. We're working on some interesting collaborations. One is with the Waterfront Alliance. They are going to help us. We're doing a resiliency assessment that we were working on with Pratt. We're still trying to get Pratt. We've had some initial conversations with Pratt, but the Waterfront Alliance has agreed to kind of be very much involved in that, so we welcome that. And they're doing some panel discussions for Climate Week that we're going to be a part of. So stay tuned, but we do envision a very good partnership with the Waterfront Alliance, and they're also going to be promoting a lot of our ferry stuff. So that's also very good. Number two, there's a nonprofit called Shama. Basically, this actually came up at one of our original meetings in 2019. This is a nonprofit where if a small business owner has a space like this and they're not renting it out, they can give it to this nonprofit. And this nonprofit will put an artist in that space. They do this throughout the city. They do this in some portions of the state. They will pick up the utilities on that particular property. They have an insurance policy. I believe it's an umbrella policy of $5 million. And the artist can be housed there from a period from at least 3 months up to a year. And the purpose of this is that if some of these storefronts are not going to use their properties for whatever their reasons are, they want to claim it on their taxes as a loss, what have you, we can at least get an artist in there to make the space look nice, promote the space. It's a nice ambiance. It's a net positive. We've had some initial discussions with the Chamber of Commerce, the City Island Chamber of Commerce, and the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. We were all on a conference call about a week and a half ago, and a lot of positive energy. We're looking for a storefront to be just one, to be the test project. Most likely, I know there have been discussions about artist housing and artist lofts in the past. This probably won't be a live-in situation. This is probably just going to be a work location where the person showcases their work. But it could be a very nice amenity for sitting on and build on the wonderful artist community we have that we're currently sitting in here. So we are looking forward to that. If you'd like to be involved in that, just shoot us an email. We'd love to have you on board. Next item is the Rodman's Neck reconstruction. This is something we talk about at every meeting. They were supposed to have the bid ready in May. It's been pushed back to November. We are on them every month. Once we know it's out to bid, we will let you know. Obviously, we're working with our partners in the state government because we really want to push for state legislation to close. Right now, the range is supposed to be, I think, 85% closed. We want to make it 100% closed. And, it's in different committees in both the Senate and in the Assembly. Our local state Assembly member, Michael Benedetto, is carrying it in the Assembly. Our state Senator, Nathlia Fernandez, is carrying it in the Senate. So we're working with them to try to get these bills through committees and hopefully be voted on the floor so the city understands how seriously we're taking this. Good progress is being made on all those fronts. And I know some of you have been sending your suggestions for the legislation. I've been passing it along to their offices. I know you had your hand up, and then John will go to you. Go ahead, Sue.
Just for clarification, you said Rodman's Neck is a gun range?
Yes. So right now, they're supposed to they've been talking for 30 years they were going to reconstruct the gun range. As a result of kind of some of the anti-terror training that goes on there, the noise has progressively gotten worse. And even though they were supposed to deal with the shooting range, they were never scheduled to deal with the bomb detonation. The legislation deals with the bomb detonations that happen and will force that to be enclosed as well. So we're trying to tackle this on all sides. I'm happy to speak to you offline and give you all the particulars. And of course, any ideas you have, this is collaborative. You can always feel free to bring them along, and we're happy to incorporate them. John?
I'm just curious, are there any delaying factors or agencies that are pushing back on any of the aspects of the design and bid process?
Right now,
the NYPD on board.
Yeah. I mean, the money has stayed through the council. Again, the money was awarded for the second time through Mayor de Blasio, with Councilmember Vaca. It continued through Councilmember Jonai. It has continued again through Councilmember Velasquez. It's in the budget now. We checked with the comptroller's office. So it's not a situation where there's no funding for it. I think this is just, unfortunately, as you know, with the city government and with government overall, things get delayed, and there's a lot going on with the finances of the city right now, as we've all been watching in the papers, and maybe that's playing a role. I can't say for certain, but given that it's from May to November, it's about a 6-month delay. We're just going to stay on top of it, and we're still going to push for it. So, good question. I don't have an answer yet. I guess after 6 months, we'll start asking tougher questions.
I guess that's one other thing that we talked about before, and that is everyone's hearing noise and it's terrible. But the thing that seems to get swept under the carpet is lead pollution. There's a lot of bullets going around there, and they're going into the terrain and it's sinking into East Bay. So where does all the lead go? Are they testing?
Well, can I speak to that? Because it's not an old issue like Steve. I only know what was done a few years ago, like I think 7 years ago, there was a major study, which isn't super long, it's doing that. There was a referral by the Department of Environmental Protection, which is the state agency, to the state legislature to assess and monitor the amount of lead pollution that and its caused. And about 6 years ago, they did do a major removal of existing lead. They didn't state whether or not it's completely mitigated. They didn't intend to completely mitigate it. It was assessment. But since that time, all lead has been mandated Yes, I mean, that was a case that was started about 11 years ago, it was adjudicated about 7 years ago, and it was an administrative law case because the Department of Environmental Protection, and amicus brief, probably a lot of people on City Island, petitioned the state to give them the authority to monitor and clean it up. So it's not 100% clean, I would say, but it's no longer an active polluting factor as it was before, I guess, 2011, I think.
Let's powwow the three of us, let's get those reports and let's get them over to you. Maybe through your work on the Hutchinson River Restoration Project, you can get someone to review them, right? So let's have a meeting of the minds. That's something we all care about. Nobody wants the water to be polluted, no matter what your political persuasion is, I'm sure. Last, I talked about this a little earlier, so our website, cityonrising.org, has been updated, it's continuing to be updated. If you have ideas for the website that you'd like us to consider, we're open to any and all ideas. It doesn't matter what it is. I know we're working on the calendar, but we're going to start up with a very, very broad environmental justice standpoint. We have a college friend of mine. He does GIS modeling, and he did a model for us in the past of how the sea levels are intended to rise on City Island. So we're going to be incorporating that into our website. We're going to have, as we talked about earlier, a very, very broad Yes, the Ferry, which is already in final designs, which we'll be launching in the next week. So we have a lot of positive stuff coming for our website. So you're going to see a very big plug by myself, the other officers, cityislandrising.org on everything, because a lot of our stuff is going to be more announced on the website. We'll link to it on social media, of course, because that's the way people get their news and information now. But the website should be an all-in-one shop for anything we're doing. And as we write letters, get responses from letters, get new information, maybe we'll put some stuff on that. We're going to be putting that all on the website so people can take a look at it. Maybe they find value in it, maybe they don't. But the point is that information will be up there and being regularly updated for everyone to view. Transparency being the guide. Speaking of transparency, I just wanted to open the floor for any community concerns we have not discussed. I know that was a long one, so people need a minute. It's fine.
Well, I see that you have the old business down here.
Yes.
You plan to discuss a lot of these things anyhow.
Yes. But, sometimes people have new stuff, and I don't want them to feel they have to listen to everything, so this is like a good break here. I know some people have had concerns with backfill situations on some of the old marinas and stuff like that. We're still gathering information. We're going to be reaching out to our elected officials, but just know that those conversations might not be had in a broad forum like this, but we are aware of some of the environmental concerns that are happening, and people who are around there are relaying that information to us.
One thing on the good news to follow up on
Yes.
The famous, I don't know what your name for it, the Miniford Lake or whatever it's called.
Yes.
What do you call it?
Oh, the Miniford Moat.
Moat. So
It was Lake Orchard, now there's the Miniford Moat.
So I brought in the city, I
Yeah.
saw them down on the street, I went
Yes.
down, we talked to them. They actually fixed one of those problems.
Right.
They kept going out of the drills and it's fixed. The main one, they're going to resurface the road, which was such a royal mess like a decade ago, and it's on board. They're going to do it. And it's not just, we're going to do it. They're actually making plans to do it.
The fact that they came out and at least fixed part of it for you now gives me some confidence.
Yeah.
And Alina Gam, who's the mayor's liaison, who's actually been here before in this room when we've had some meetings, she has been to your place now a few times, and it is a priority. And in our, and we're going to get to it a little later on here, but in our very, very long DOT request, we have a letter and a packet that we sent DOT that's about 24 pages long, which is like everything that ever had to deal with flooding. And the word has gotten back that to anticipate an equally lengthy response on some of this stuff. And the hope is, we have, I think I know what you're going to say, so I'm going to say it. And if I don't get it, you jump right in.
Okay.
The bipartisan infrastructure money from the federal government, the inflation reduction money from the federal government, the green bond stuff, Green Jobs Bond Act that was passed at the state level. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. So what we asked them to do is we wrote down all the concerns from Shore Road to the Miniford Moat to all the flooding in the park to both sides of Ditmars Avenue to Belden Point, to everything. We put it all in one document, which we sent to the deputy mayor, who I met at a conference, and we sent all the news articles that we've done on this stuff. So it couldn't, and all the emails that we've sent that have, sometimes people aren't empowered at the positions they're at to, award billions of dollars in funding, but a deputy mayor usually is someone who approves some of those projects. So we are hopeful that we're getting some good word and some good responses. John,
The
go
only
ahead.
other thing that I want to say is,
Yes, sir.
Lake Orchard is improved in most cases. When
Yes.
we had the heavy rains like we did this last weekend, it was redoing some part of it.
I got some photos. I'm going to send them over to Parks Department. But thankfully, you remember, the Lake Orchard used to be like a seasonal vacation, and now it's the next day is gone. But you're right. We do strive for some improvements there. I was breaking things earlier, so it's fine. But nothing that can't be replaced, Egypt, if you watch this. Nothing of value. Next up on old business, the UPK, Bronx House is looking for a new space. They are speaking to an owner. Everyone remembers we were down to the final negotiations on Carroll Street. They fell apart. Maria worked very hard on that. Kim worked very hard on that. Teresa on our board worked hard on that. Myself as well. We are now trying to get another location on the avenue. I don't want to give locations because we are not that far along, but just the UPK thing is something that there is a text or an email on nearly every single day. It's kind of like priority number one. And UPK stands for Universal Pre-Kindergarten. I always make that mistake. I don't explain the
I didn't know
acronym.
what you meant.
We are one of the few neighborhoods without any sort of universal pre-kindergarten program. It's a burden on young families who have little ones here. So we can see City Island's going through a little bit of a baby boom. We want to make sure that we have all the amenities that every other city neighborhood has that we deserve, whether it's 24/7 bus service, an easier commute through a ferry, or UPK, Universal Pre-Kindergarten, for the little City Islanders, okay? 2 was the letter we just spoke about, so I can breeze through that. C here is the DOT. Everyone remembers we foiled all the DOT studies that had happened where they said we didn't meet this stop sign, we didn't meet this stoplight, we didn't meet these speed humps, we didn't meet the speed camera. We have the speed camera going on the southbound, which is great, but we don't have one on the northbound. And we said, well, when are you examining these things? And they were never on a summer weekend evening. So we have the mayor's office involved, and we said, look, the weekend evening traffic patterns are unique and they're different, and as a result, we need to examine these things in context with that, and there was an agreement to do that. So I've been emailing them on a monthly basis. Oh, did it happen? Did it happen? And I'm waiting for responses. But I just wanted everyone to know that this is not we're still waiting on the summer findings. Technically, we're still in the summer season, but I'm hopeful we're going to get a response on that soon. Industrial parking, this was something at the last meeting where we had the captain. They did kind of crack down on a lot of that stuff after the meeting. I don't see kind of the lead people who were here at the last meeting who were more concerned with the Reynolds Street and the crane yard. I don't see them here at this meeting. I will follow up with them independently. But has anyone heard anything about Reynolds Street and the crane operations and the emissions and stuff like that? We're still on it.
I came here to hear about it.
Yeah, okay. So that had been the last meeting. You gotta watch our last YouTube because that was a good 50% of the meeting.
Yeah.
So you can watch it there. And we are still on top of that with the other agencies to make sure that there's industrial yards here. They are legal, but the industrial yards work is supposed to take place in the industrial yard. It's not supposed to be something that spills on out to the avenue for all the rest of us to enjoy. So we are making we're trying to make progress on both the urgent care and the community garden. There's no new news, but we are trying on both those fronts. I know people want an urgent care here. We are in discussions with someone who's experienced in that industry. If it comes, it's probably going to be piggybacking off another storefront and maybe just operating on weekend evenings. We were trying to get it in the school. We haven't yet heard back from the school, which leads to they probably don't want it in the school. That would have been an ideal place, but we are trying to to get it possibly in another storefront. Those conversations continue in earnest, but there is no new news there. And the community garden, as everyone remembers, we had a member who had originally thought her backyard would be good for a community garden. We brought the New York Restoration Project here. We had a tour with them also over the summer. The yard wasn't exactly what they were looking for, and she, it wasn't a good time for her to take on that project. So we're trying to still work on a community garden. We understand there's a lot of logistical hurdles should we get a community garden, but we're trying to at least explore those possibilities. Again, no new news, but I didn't want people to think we are forgetting them and we're not listening. We are still very concerned there.
John, what about the dog park?
The dog park, so we have someone who's kind of taking the lead on that. I know she's had discussions with the council member's office. I don't know where those discussions are right now. I know she's also trying to have discussions with the state electeds because they do get capital funding as well. So I believe she's going to be having a meeting with Senator Fernandez soon. That's where I believe we left off in the door.
Do you have a general plan, or is this just, you guys are creating it as you go?
It's a lot of, when we started this group, we had a lot of poster boards where we sat here, Dan, myself, others, and David, we just wrote ideas down that people had. And what we've been trying to do since then is trying to execute on those ideas as much as we can and trying to use our current resources.
There's no like planning, organization of like the planning board, all that stuff.
There is
So
a,
it's
there is the community board that has they have a zoning and planning, but it's not like a master plan like you would in a small town. And to be honest, it really is, all these fall under the kind of the guidance of whoever the particular elected officials are at the time. If they're willing to fund them, then these things happen. And if there is a broad city sentiment, sometimes things happen, building on other initiatives. But there's no, unfortunately, there's no, we're also going to be putting together a, kind of our strategic priorities and like a glossy book that we're going to give to elected officials. And that, it's not quite a strategic plan, but it does serve the purpose.
But community board 10, is that what she's talking about?
Well, we just talked about that.
Yeah.
In zoning, they have a zoning committee, but it's not like there's a master plan for every neighborhood. It's a very good question. It's a very good idea.
How do you, okay, so
Yeah.
all of this industrial that's starting to build up, is there no way to control it and say we're not, is there any sort of guidelines for that? Because it takes over.
It's zoned industrial, but,
It's zone
But that was
manufacturing.
because of the
Yeah.
voting,
Yeah.
correct?
it's very difficult to change these legacy zonings in the city. It does happen, it has happened in a lot of places, it takes a lot of time and a lot of community input, so that's what we're working on.
Yes.
Yeah, community board 10 is battling that issue.
What's that?
Community board 10 is very much in the battle in terms of that, the industrial parking.
Well, they're for the Reynolds
For
one.
the what?
For the Reynolds, the crane.
For the crane, yeah.
Yes. And there's more than just one. It's I think
Yeah.
the point that the woman's.
But yes, there are more.
And then you know what? You're right. There should be a wider discussion on that. I think it's about finding consensus, and unfortunately, I don't think there is a consensus. If people are using manufacturing, you are talking about people's jobs and their livelihoods, and I think that I have not seen a real hard push to close down all the manufacturing yards. I guess we're gonna have to see, but John raised a good point that a lot of these were legacy.
We're going back, 180 years after New York City here, but another point that I want to make is, we have, 4 yacht clubs now. They're a major influence for our community. They're one of the longest standing businesses in this community. And all of those yachtsmen from local and the farm depend on an amount of certain type of industrial space for there to be yards and maintenance facilities and, yards to store their boats. If we decide we don't want that, we might as well, call ourselves, Portland North.
No, not yacht clubs. I don't think she should.
Well, I'm just saying that the yacht clubs need this any Kenny's boatyard,
They need
any
all the trucks, we're
Casell
talking
people.
about over all the trucks are,
Yeah.
because they have taken over the
Yeah.
avenue in the mornings,
Right.
where it's just.
That is
narrow.
being heavily worked on by all of us.
But we should,
Anybody.
let's have an offline, because I think there's a lot that can be discussed there. And there's a lot more we can probably,
But offline, where and when? I mean,
like after this meeting.
okay.
New business, as I mentioned earlier, the Waterfront Alliance is doing, for the Climate Week, they're doing a panel discussion, September 22nd, Friday, from 12 to 1. An island without water, understanding the inequities of accessing the waterfront. This is not just City Island, this is broader, this is the whole city of New York. This is not, and this is not just because, as I always say, there's the current, which is the fishing boat and the volunteer newspaper, and then there's the undercurrent of City Island where all the rumors come out. This does not open up all the beaches. I want to say that clearly, we're on camera. This is not about opening up all the beaches. It's about there are existing waterfront areas that are not being used to their potential, whether that's the area by Seafood City, which is supposed to be publicly accessible waterfront, whether or not it's the area on the end of Fordham Street, which is technically an open waterfront area, but you need to get on your tippy toes to actually see the waterfront, whether it's rebuilding Belden Point, and whether it's the area where the old worm bar used to be, and making sure that's a positive amenity for our community, not the scene from where the wildfires are. So there's a lot of things we can do with these things. So those are the things I'm focused on. I'm not going down to the end of somebody's block with the bolt clippers or anything like that. That's not my role. But that is, we are trying to do is just, there are areas where there have been promises before, and making sure that when people get the agreement to do developments, that they are living up to the promises they make the community and they make the city of New York. Okay, so we have 3 meaningful community actions you might all want to consider and make them easy. So there was a meeting because the state's Green Bond Initiative, they're taking ideas for what they should spend the money on. I submitted some testimony. On just behalf of myself, but kind of incorporating a lot of our greater ideas both in this group and in some of the other groups. Talking about utility lines needing to go underground, which we're working with the Congresswoman's office on. Talking about the lack of adequate infrastructure within Pelham Bay Park and the roadways. The sewer lines that need to be redone. The New York City Ferry Service. Green infrastructure to help us deal with our Zone 1 evacuation area. The dumping that used to go on in Mount Vernon, but the residual poor water quality, which we're also working to address, but it's going to need more money. And greater resiliency enhancements. So my point is that if you go to this bit.ly link on your phone, you can submit your own ideas. And they're actually due at the end of tomorrow. So this meeting is perfectly timed, because if you want to do something good, you can go right on there. They ask a lot of questions. You're not going to know how much some of this costs, and that's fine. But this is a public comment period. We're all members of the public. No one's better than anyone else. This is our time to comment. So if you have any ideas, this is their website. I just did a bit.ly because their website would have been half a page if I just put down all the characters. So it's bit.ly /CIR Green Bond. You put that on your phone, you go, you can get it done. 2, for meaningful actions people can take, the Adopt the Block, Adopt the Basin program. So I'm gonna, does anyone need one of these to sign up for? Here, just take one, and if anyone else needs it, just keep your hand raised and we'll get it around to you. And then number 3, I'm gonna bring it all back. We have the Stop and Swap on Saturday. Please, yes, exactly. Please come down, bring some stuff. Hopefully you'll find something you like, and you can take it off. This is about, again, keeping our carbon footprints low and to make sure we're not putting stuff out to waste that is unnecessary. As they say, one person's trash is another person's treasure. So if you have something that's in decent condition, you're not eating it anymore, bring it on down, and either someone will take it or we'll find some other new home for it, hopefully. anything that anyone has a question on that I have answered? Patrick?
One question that we've talked about before is the Gateway program.
Yeah.
I was wondering, where is it at? Is it still alive? Is it still in process? Is it ever going to happen?
It's a good question. I know they elected your leadership. I had a conversation with that leadership in April that said they were going to be much more involved. I believe they did trim some of the hedges. I know.
Well, they love
Look,
the house.
I mean, they've got a, that group should hopefully will be leading on what that site should be. And they need, to have leadership, you need some level of consensus. So I truly hope they're able to do that. And if they can't, then let's have an offline about that. I understand where you're coming from. I know Linda Baldwin worked very hard on that.
But when you say new leadership, who's that? I don't know.
Well, I don't know who the last president was, but Maria Caruso's the new president.
Oh, okay.
So, and I know she just got in there in April. So, we'll figure it.
It still sits there like, welcome to City Island.
Yeah, no.
Right, I mean,
It's the front yard of City Island. If your front yard looked like that, your neighbor would have something to say to you. But
just started making progress.
we'll talk. And look, maybe honestly, Patrick, something we could do to probably further that. Go to this website tomorrow and type in that for one of the green bond initiatives. I think that's a great account. It's something.
I know that is a good idea.
It's something. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it is, and that is an area that frequently floods. There, we're doing the sewers there, or the plans to do the sewers there. But that is something we could do that could be very good. Does anyone else have a question, comment, or concern before we wrap up? Kara, is there anything on the internets there? Okay. Yes.
I have a question about the community garden, which is, if we have someone who wants it in their yard, why does the government need to be involved? Like,
Fair enough. So I might not have communicated it the right way. So the New York Restoration Project is actually a non-for-profit public-private partnership. So it is not the government in that case. It's just, again, there are certain prerequisites that need to take place there. You would need somewhere to get some plumbing out there or for water. There's a need for insurance. There's a need for liability waivers. There's a need for a lot of different things which the Restoration Project could help with. And again, at the end of the day, that person wasn't quite gung-ho due to some other stuff that was going on about using their yard. So we are trying to acquire another space, and I'd be happy to talk to you. Maybe we can find a way to get a new space. Because if we can make it work, we're about trying to make it work. Yes, go ahead.
Do you know how many people we have who are going to be volunteering or helping with the structural setup for this dock walk, or
I think it's 6 or 7.
No,
is it 6 or 7 so
6
far?
or 7, yeah.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure.
And we actually incorporated your idea. When people show up, we're going to have them self-sort in the different areas. We have about six tables,
Okay.
and we're going to use the benches, which was no.
Are you working on this stuff?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll find
Yes.
time to go through this?
sure.
Yes. Awesome. Anything else, anybody? All right. Thank you all. Appreciate you all coming. Oh, wait, before we go, we do have an elected official representative here. So, and you too. Okay, so we do too. Sorry. René from AOC's office. Come on up.
Hi all. It's always a pleasure being here. Hope you guys had a good summer. And just to go on with the updates. Tomorrow, actually, the Congressman is leading a delegation of other Congress members, part of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. They're all coming here to New York City. They're going to go and observe the city's response to the asylum seeker crisis, which, as you all know, has been a very prominent thing on the news. And so the goal of the trip right now is to show the other members the situation on the ground and sort of push for an appropriate federal response. I don't know if you guys have heard on the news that there's been a little bit of a back and forth between the city, the state, and the federal government. So this is an effort on her end as well as the others in that caucus to try to get some sort of federal response to it.
You know who's coming?
It's all the members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, so members like Alaska, you got other members like the SAR as well. I'm not sure the 15 members that are going to be there, but that should be on the news sometime tomorrow as well.
I believe Espaillat.
Espaillat as well, yeah. Number 2, we're happy to announce, again, the Congressional App Challenge is underway. It's an initiative that I personally am taking for the office. What it is this educational program around computer science, where we invite all the different students from grade 6 to 12 to apply for this application or for this program, where they create an app, and if they win, they get to go to DC and showcase their app on at the Capitol. We're working on this sort of prize to also have for them, for their school. Can't exactly say what it is, but I'll know about tomorrow, and once I get it, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. We'll share it on our socials.
Of course.
Granted, no one has more social media influence than the Congresswoman, but we'll do our little part to share them.
Of course. And there's an event at the New York Hall of Science as well next Saturday, where we are going to teach kids how to code, how to make their application as well, and I'll give you that information as well. Congress is back in session, so keep an eye out for our, on our social medias about the different negotiations to avoid the government shutdown, because that's going to become a big thing in the coming weeks as well. And as always, please apply for your passports. Makes my life a whole lot easier. Makes y'all's life a lot easier as well. And this
How
month
long
is.
does it take now usually?
Well, it's still the whole 4 to 6 weeks for expedited. I believe it's 7 to 11 for normal routine, but as y'all know, as December's coming, with the holidays, it's going to ramp up again, and then right after that is going to be the summer. So before you know it, it's going to be backlogged even more. So if you have a backlogged application, feel free to call our office, and we'll walk you through the process of making the inquiry about that. But besides that, that's my time, and thank you all so much.
On that note, just real quick, I guess like sometime about a year ago, I applied for TSA, whatever they call that, no travel,
Global entry, maybe?
No, it's just the regular, priority TSA.
Pre-check, okay,
Yeah, and it took like 5 months for them to email me my KTN.
Wow.
I don't know if anybody else is having issues with that, but as the congressman, what's the average response to TSA?
I'll tell you what, on the TSA prep, on the global entry, we don't have many inquiries, if at all. I've been here maybe for about 9 months now, almost 7, 8 months, and I haven't gotten one inquiry.
So you can't get on an airplane without a passport.
But if you have, that's a good point. If you do have an outdated, global entry or TSA prep, if you need us to inquire about that, it's also something that we can inquire about. Any sort of federal government agency we can ask a question about, depending on the specifics. But that's something we can ask about definitely. So, thank you.
Thank you, René. And come on up. Will you?
I don't have an update.
But if you just want to introduce yourself.
Yes.
Junior.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martinez. I'm the brand new community liaison out of New York City Senator Fernandez's office. So any concerns you may have within the district or immediate community, feel free to reach out to our office. We're located on 3853 East Tremont. Ideally, any community-related affairs probably dealing with me a lot. Again, take it easy on me. I'm brand new. I just moved back to the Bronx 3 weeks ago, so I'm glad to be home. And
Where were you?
I was out in Reading, Pennsylvania. Out in the mountains, cornfield.
It'll be another 3-week honeymoon period, and we're all coming for you. We got all these issues.
It's good to be back home. So
Welcome
I'm at
back.
your service.
Thank you, guys. All right. That's it, everybody. Thank you all for coming out.